I thought I knew life. At 62, I let it all God thought I knew life. That's the sentence I lived by for decades, quietly, confidently, and without ever questioning it.
I thought life was something you figured out early, controlled carefully, and managed with enough discipline that nothing truly unexpected could touch you. At 62, I can finally admit how wrong I was, but this realization didn't arrive gently. It didn't come as wisdom in a book or advice from someone older. It came through exhaustion, through loss, through the slow, painful cracking of every belief I once held sacred. I was born into a world already full of rules. Before I could speak, life was explaining itself to me through expectations. Be good, be strong, be responsible, be useful. Don't ask too many questions, don't fall behind, like most people. I accepted these rules without resistance. Why wouldn't I? Everyone else seemed to be following them too. As a child, I believed adults knew what they were doing. Teachers, parents, leaders, surely they had life figured out. And one day, I would too. That belief became my compass, my motivation, my quiet promise to myself. By my 20s, I was convinced I was on the right path. I had plans, timelines, goals with neat edges. I believed effort equaled reward, and control equaled safety. If something went wrong, I assumed it was because I hadn't planned well enough yet. So I worked harder. I chased stability like it was salvation. One collected achievements not because they brought joy, but because they brought certainty, or so I thought. Every decision was filtered through a single question. Will this protect me from uncertainty? Marriage, career, reputation, responsibilities. I built a life that looked solid from the outside. People respected me. Some admired me. I became the person others came to for advice, because I always seemed so sure. What they didn't see was the quiet fear underneath it all. I was afraid of losing control. I was afraid that if I stopped managing everything, life would collapse. That chaos was waiting just outside the edges of my discipline. That rest was dangerous. That surrender was weakness. So I stayed busy, always moving, always fixing, always preparing for the next possible disaster. Years passed like this quickly, faster than I realized. Time doesn't slow down for certainty. It speeds up when you're not paying attention. By my 40s, I started to feel something I couldn't name at first, a dull heaviness. Not sadness exactly, more like disconnection. Life was working, but it wasn't alive. I was successful, but strangely untouched by it all. Still, I pushed on. That's what people like me do. When discomfort appears, we double down. Then life did what life always does. It interrupted me, not all at once, not dramatically, just enough to shake the illusion. A plan failed that was supposed to be foolproof. A relationship changed in a way I couldn't control. My body started to remind me quietly at first that it had limits too. And then came the moment I didn't expect, a deep, bone-level tiredness, not the kind sleep fixes, the kind that comes from carrying something for too long without ever setting it down. I remember one ordinary day clearly. Nothing extraordinary happened, no tragedy, no breakthrough. I was sitting alone, surrounded by the life I had built, and I felt completely empty. That scared me more than any failure ever had, because for the first time, I asked a dangerous question. What if I don't actually know what I'm doing? At first, my mind rejected it. Of course I knew. I had decades of proof, but the question lingered. It sat with me, followed me into quiet moments, whispered when the noise stopped. By my 50s, the cracks were undeniable. I had answers for everyone else, but none that satisfied me. Advice came easily, peace did not. I started noticing something uncomfortable. The harder I tried to control life, the more fragile I felt. Every unexpected change felt like a threat. Every delay felt personal. Every loss felt like failure. I had confused control with wisdom. Then, slowly, almost against my will, I began to let some things slip. Not intentionally at first. I was simply too tired to hold everything so tightly. And nothing collapsed. That surprised me. In fact, some things improved. Conversations felt lighter. Moments felt fuller. I laughed without checking the time. I rested without guilt, at least occasionally. It was subtle, but it planted a seed. Maybe control wasn't keeping me safe. Maybe it was keeping me trapped. At 62, that seed finally broke open. It happened during a period of uncertainty, one I would have desperately tried to fix in my younger years. This time, I didn't have the energy to fight it. I sat with it instead. And in that stillness, something strange occurred. I realized I didn't actually know anything in the way I had pretended to. I didn't know where life was going. I didn't know how long I had. I didn't know why some things worked out and others didn't. And for the first time, that didn't terrify me. It relieved me. Because if I didn't know, then maybe I didn't have to pretend anymore. Maybe I didn't have to carry the burden of certainty. Maybe life wasn't something to be solved, but something to be experienced. That realization didn't come with fireworks. It came with a quiet exhale I felt deep in my chest. I stopped fighting questions that had no answers. I stopped demanding clarity from a world that had never promised it. I stopped treating uncertainty like an enemy. I didn't give up on life. I let go of the illusion that I was in charge of it. And that is where this journey truly begins. Letting go didn't happen all at once. It wasn't a dramatic decision I announced to the world. There was no ceremony, no clear line in the sand. It unfolded quietly, moment by moment, as I began to live without gripping everything so tightly. At first, it felt unnatural, almost irresponsible. For most of my life, I had defined myself by how much I carried. The planner, the fixer, the reliable one, the person who always knew what to do next. When I stopped playing that role so forcefully, I felt strangely exposed. Who was I if I wasn't in control? That question followed me everywhere. I noticed how often my old habits tried to reclaim authority. When something felt uncertain, my mind rushed to fill the space with worry. When silence appeared, I felt an urge to explain it away. When someone struggled, I instinctively wanted to solve it for them. But now, instead of obeying those impulses, I paused. And in those pauses, I began to see something I had missed for decades. Life didn't need my constant supervision. It was moving, changing, unfolding with or without my approval. The sun rose without my permission. People made choices that had nothing to do with me. Emotions came and went like weather. Even pain arrived, stayed for a while, and then softened in its own time. I had spent so many years believing that my job was to manage life, when in truth, my only real task was to meet it honestly. This shift didn't make everything easier, but it made things real. I began to listen more than I spoke, not just to others, but to myself. I noticed how tired I had been for so long, not physically, but spiritually. I had lived as if rest had to be earned, as if joy required justification. Now, I allowed moments to exist without purpose, a quiet morning with no agenda, a walk with no destination, a conversation that didn't need to go anywhere. These moments would have once made me anxious. Now, they felt like small freedoms, and something unexpected happened without striving. I felt more present, without planning every step. I felt more grounded, without trying to be impressive or useful. I felt perhaps for the first time enough. This didn't mean I stopped caring. I still cared deeply. About people, about meaning, about living well. But the way I cared changed. It became softer, less urgent, less fearful. I stopped seeing uncertainty as a problem to fix and started seeing it as the natural condition of being alive. That realization alone changed everything. I also began to see my past differently. For years, I had measured my life by outcomes, what I achieved, what I avoided, what I lost, what I kept. Now, I started looking at it through another lens. What I learned, what shaped me, what opened me, what humbled me. Even my mistakes softened in memory. They were no longer evidence of failure, but proof that I had been trying, that I had lived, that I had cared. I forgave myself for not knowing sooner, because how could I have known? I was doing what I was taught, what many of us are taught, to be strong, to be certain, to never let life see us unsure. But certainty, I've learned, is often just fear dressed up as confidence. Real strength came later. It came with saying, I don't know and I'm okay with that. As I let go, my relationships changed too. I stopped trying to be the anchor for everyone else. I stopped offering answers when empathy was needed. I stopped carrying other people's fears as if they were my responsibility. Some relationships deepened, others drifted. That used to scare me. Now, I understood it as part of the natural rhythm of life. Not everything is meant to be held forever. And that's not lost its honesty. I also began to feel my age in a different way. Before, aging felt like something to outrun or disguise, a threat to relevance, a reminder of limits. Now, it felt like a privilege, a narrowing of distractions, a gentle insistence on truth. At 62, I no longer feel the need to prove who I am. I don't need my life to look impressive. I need it to feel real. I don't need certainty about the future. I need presence in the moment. I don't need control. I need trust. Trust doesn't mean believing everything will work out perfectly. It means believing I can meet whatever comes, with honesty and grace. That belief is quieter than confidence but far stronger. There are still days when fear visits. Still moments when old habits whisper, "Take control, fix this, don't let go." And sometimes, I listen. But more often now, I smile gently at that voice and let it pass. Because I know something I didn't know before. Life is not a test you pass by having the right answers. It's an experience you honor by being present. I don't know what the coming years will bring. I don't know how long this chapter will last. I don't know who I'll become next. And that, finally, feels like freedom. Letting go didn't make my life smaller. It made it truer. And for the first time, I'm not trying to figure life out. I'm living it.